Hi, I'm Zibby Owens, and you're listening to Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books. This 30-minute podcast features a new author interviewed by me every single day, 365 days a year, for about 30 minutes. I am also the publisher for Zibby Books, which publishes 12 books a year in fiction and memoir. Our books are already out now. You can check it out on zibbybooks.com. And we have a magazine called Zibby Mag, where we have lots of wonderful essays and lifestyle features. That's at zibbymag.com. We have classes at zibbyclasses.com. And I recently opened a bookstore in LA called Zibby's Bookshop at 1113 Montana Avenue at 11th Street in Santa Monica. I hope that you are able to enjoy some of our other offerings, but this here podcast is the basis of all of it and started in 2018, and no matter what I do, this is basically my favorite thing. Enjoy. Stacy Igel is the author of Embracing the Calm in the Chaos: How to Find Success in Business and Life Through Perseverance, Connection, and Collaboration. Stacy is the founder and creative director of Boy Meets Girl, a global impact brand known for its iconic double silhouette logo and purposeful, edgy, contemporary athleisure wear. Stacy and Boy Meets Girl seek to promote the message that confidence and courage are trends that never go out of style. In 2016, Stacy's alma mater, the University of Wisconsin, awarded her with the Wisconsin Idea Alumni Award, which recognized Stacy for how she educated and influenced people's lives beyond the boundaries of a classroom. In 2017, Stacy won the Forward Under Forward Award, where the university acknowledged her as one of the rising stars in her field. Stacy and Boy Meets Girl have been featured in InStyle, Elle, Cosmopolitan, Marie Claire, Allure, People, Teen Vogue, 17, the list goes on. She is the co-creator and co-host of the podcast #Moms Got This, which was featured on Forbes as a women-created podcast everyone should be listening to right now. I don't know why I wasn't on the list, but I'm going to have to go dig into that. And in less than a year, ranked in the top 25 on iTunes. Stacy is a frequent lecturer and panelist on subjects like social media, philanthropy, branding, and entrepreneurship. She lives in New York City with her husband, Brian, and their son, Dylan. And by the way, she was supposed to come over and do this episode in person, but I had a terrible cold, which became an even worse cold in the following couple days. So she literally was in an Uber when I realized there was no way I could meet someone in person and had to turn around. I felt terrible. But we did it on Zoom nonetheless, but excuse my sneezing and all of that. Welcome, Stacy. Thank you so much for coming on Mom. You're taking a picture. Welcome, Stacy. Thank you so much for coming on Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books to discuss embracing the calm in the chaos.
Thank you so much for having me, and very apropos to the book title and my life. Today, you are interviewing me with sneezes, and I appreciate it. We were supposed to be live and in person together to give you this, but we will make cocktails and drinks happen, and I'm so excited to be here doing this with you. I feel like it's been years in the making.
Oh. Well, I am so excited to talk to you. And again, I am sorry we aren't in person, but you're probably better off for it. To be honest with you, I have been carrying your book around. You know, like this is what I do like a week or so before every podcast. I'm like bringing the book everywhere and dipping in and out and all that stuff. And there are so many times where I've looked at this book with what's going on in my own life and just been like, okay, this is my message. Okay. You know, like my daughter has some crazy thing, medical thing. And I'm just like, okay. Embracing the calm and the chaos. Like, thank you, Stacy. So,
well, you know, my book title originally was going to it was from the joke in my book that, what would you do that for? And that had like this negative connotation, although it's really funny. But then the Embracing the Calm and the Chaos is one of my chapter names. And it was voted by everybody to be the name. And it really is resonant of my life and our lives and how I keep moving, and so, yes, I'm happy that you can look at it and it gives you some solace to your day.
It really does. In your book, you write about your whole the whole backstory to how you became you and starting your business. And I loved these images of you like making your own prom dress and going around the East Village with these like ribbon in your sleeves and basically how you kept, it was so funny too, because in your book, it's you give example after example of your sort of relentlessness. And oh, I called Delia's like 100 times to get that internship. And oh, I kept calling this. And then I was thinking even about our interactions, I'm like, she is so determined because I was like, like all of our emails, I'm like, I love it. And I relate to it too.
Well,
Just like the focus.
When I was reading your book, I'm like, oh my God, Zibby and I are the same person.
Yeah.
Although we're not the same person. We're very different backgrounds, but we have the same work ethic. And I actually was like, I was underlining in your book, I was like, oh my God, I should be interviewing you because we've never stopped working, right?
Yes.
In different fields, but it's definitely, yes, calling Delia, this was like pre-social media, pre-anything, and no connections in fashion. Like I was from Chicago. I went to University of Wisconsin, Madison, like, in the Midwest. And I'm like, I got to get to New York. I got to work in fashion. And I remember I was calling the 1-800 number and I got a customer service person on the phone. And I was like, I need the buyer's information. Can you give me her phone number? And I got it. And I actually flew to New York it was a Christmas break to have the interview in person. I got the job. And then I ended up taking a different job with LA Tahari. And I was like the worst feeling I worked so hard to get that Delia's job, but then I really wanted to work for a designer who I could learn from and have that skill. And I remember being at a payphone and pre-cell phones in the heart of, New York City to call Delia's and be like, thank you so much, but I'm going to have to turn this job down. And, I think that was the decision that led me to, was the right decision for me. But yes, I think, my mother, I talk about a lot in my book and who was an entrepreneur, she went to hear Elsa Clench speak in Chicago and gave her my resume. But then I had to keep calling John Filliman, who was her head producer, who's now a dear friend. I called and called and called and called. It was like, my mom gave you the resume to Elsa Clench. I need to work there. And I got the job.
I feel like I so relate. Like I just sometimes need someone to open the door just a smidge. And then you just keep going. I just need that door open a little bit.
Yeah. And when you don't have, a connection, it's really hard. And so, I feel very blessed. Like I've built this world and I have my nieces and nephews who I can pick up a phone call and now, but I say to them, I'm like, you have to work so hard. Even if I just give you this introduction for that interview, you have to, if you get the job, you better be there on time and give it your all, because I don't want to put my name, I don't want to make that connection. I have so many people in my sphere who don't have that connection and I could help them too. And I do help them and I want to help them. And I know they'll work really, really hard, so it's, I've been very fortunate on my journey to build this community who support me.
And that basically from a super young age, you were trying out these entrepreneurial things. It's almost like you can look back. I feel like parents should be like, here are the signs that my child is going to be an entrepreneur when they are older. Do you know what I mean? Because there are all these little things are they secretly starting a business on the side? Right. What are they doing? How are they taking, I used to sell bookmarks door to door that I would design, all these things. I'm like, I hadn't even thought about it till I read Stacy's book. All these things I did as a kid that all contribute. And anyway, all these things for you built into your massive career success with Boy Meets Girl. And even I loved hearing how you got the logo and all of that. But just the ability, when you were I don't even know why I went into Noah Tepperberg's hotel room on vacation when he wanted my shirt. And I'm like, oh my God, what was she doing? And you're like, and yet they, that changed my life. And
oh my God, that's another payphone story. I'm on spring break in Acapulco I had dressed my friends all in my first top I designed in college. They wore it to every nightclub around the pool. It was every college was there. It was Wisconsin, Michigan, Duke, Indiana, Iowa, whoever was on spring break went on these package tours that you would get on a plane for $200. And there was this crazy all-inclusive thing. And literally we sold the shirts off of their backs. And then my last two, I'm calling my mom again and I'm like, I sold all my shirts like I made. And no, for everyone on here, Noah Teppenberg is the co-founder of the Tao Strategic Group. He, marquee, oh my gosh, he owns every, restaurant, every nightclub, and has grown a huge empire. At the time was like a party promoter and was like, what did you sell? What is this? I'm like, well, I've got my two last shirts. My friends are waiting for me to go back to the airport from our trip. And I was like, he's like, I'll buy them. And I'm like, okay. And Jason Strauss, his partner, opens the door and he's like, what is this, Noah? And I was like, I'm selling my shirts. And he's like, well, I want one for Judy. And Judy, who I love now, who runs all of the nonprofit work for Tao Strategic Group, like remembers like her brother bought my first shirt. And it was just like, it was one of those moments, again, like in real life is so special in that way where we've this past 2 years of the pandemic and the way we work, it's like a whole different world, right? And it's also very interesting, exciting too. But like in the beginning phases of like building this and like having those moments led me to all these relationships, and Noah like would invite me to all these parties he was throwing in the city. Like I remember I was invited, I tagged him on his birthday recently. It was a birthday card for a party for his birthday. And it was a spinning wheel with Noah's body on it that spin to like what event you would like do at this party. And I was just like, again, Midwest girl, like hadn't like, this is a whole new like scene for me. And it was wild and amazing. And he was part of like me doing events and parties that led like in my fashion week days, like I did parties at Avenue and like he gave me the space for that New York Fashion Week show. And it like led to such a great relationship,
By the way, meanwhile, when I was in high school here in New York, they would hand out all these little, party cards all the time for, the surf club or wherever it was. And it was always those guys throwing all the parties, and so, and that's from when I was like, what, 16, 15. So it like never stops. It's like, anyway.
And in Chicago, there was like maybe one or two, I live in the city, like who would promote Medusa, this club, but like, we didn't have that. But actually I have two friends who are very much in that kind of vein, who are the Chicago nightclub guys, and like you said, it's like you see a budding entrepreneur at a young age of what they're doing, and they're going to do something big. But also, like for me, this book is to inspire the next entrepreneur as well, who maybe doesn't have that spark, but can be inspired by the journey and maybe will spark some new ideas.
Well, you combine so many great lessons in the book too. And I know, at the beginning of each chapter, you have a little thing and then takeaways at the end. But I like all the ones that are kind of sprinkled through. Like when you say an entrepreneur needs to know what everybody does in the company and know how to do it themselves. Because my husband is always like, why are you doing all these little things? And I'm like, I have to know how it all works. I have to know how every little thing works. You just have to know. And sometimes I'm like, am I being crazy? Like maybe I'm just crazy. And then I read your book and I'm like, yes, see, Stacy says this is how she does it too.
I think when you're growing a small business that, ultimately you want to lead to a bigger business, if you don't know those functions, like, and you don't get your hands scrappy, how can you lead? And I think that like the people who are my bosses or mentors did all those things, right? They really, like Ellie Tahari, I wouldn't say he's my mentor, but but I really respect him. But like he did it all. He built his company. He was like in the fabric stores. He was in the trim stores. He found the factories. He built it so that he could know every piece of that garment and how to run the business. And sometimes we're not the best at it. Like I say this in the book, like I was not a great manager in my 20s, right? Like because I wanted to do it all and be the, perfect and ship everything on time and, emailing everyone at all hours, which I find myself probably still doing, but like, they know not to worry to answer that moment. But like, I definitely, learn from mistakes and like how to be a more efficient manager. But I think that learning, how to do that Excel spreadsheet, how to, talk to the salespeople, how to talk to your factories, how to talk to the manager, how to, really working with everyone gives you value and also respect. Like during COVID, there was one woman who was picking and packing in the factory in Virginia that I have. And she was the one I was talking to because, first of all, no one was really in these factories. And I sent her flowers during COVID. I sent, would thank her. No one was doing that to her, and she's like, I can't believe I'm getting this from you. And I'm like, you're the one doing the work. Like I'm here having privilege to work remote, but you're actually shipping my goods. And I think that goes back to like my beginning days when I launched in Bergdorf Goodman, my first, store that discovered me.
Your mom was so funny. My mom would have been the same way. She's like obsessed. I'm not explaining any of this well. I just keep jumping in. But when you're at a trade show, essentially, I can't remember the name of it, and you went to the bathroom, and the buyers from Bergdorf's came over, and your mom was talking to them in your booth, and you came back, and you're like, "Who are these people?" And you're like, "She's like, you're gonna be in Bergdorf's. You're gonna be in Bergdorf's."
She's like, "It's Bergdorf Goodman." And I was like, "Mom, please me." I was so embarrassed.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God. That was, I still remember that trade show like it was yesterday because Tracy Margulis was the Bergdorf's buyer, and she's the head of Saks now. She's the chief merchant at Saks, and she still remembers that moment. And she's in the book, and we talk about this story. And it was like, it was right. This is where we relate because I read your book with 9/11 and in a different way. I had friends who lost friends. I didn't have someone personally.
I saw that. I'm sorry.
And I'm sorry for you too. I wanted to hug you today.
Oh.
But, for me, doing that show a month later, and I explained that in the book, it was really hard for me to like say, oh, I'm going to be in fashion. Like, we all were confused and didn't know what had like happened. And this is a terrorist attack. And we all wanted to just save, like help, and especially for me, like my dad was an orthopedic surgeon. My mom was a physician assistant. Again, no family in the business. Like I was like, oh, should I go into like social work? Like I was just like, where am I here? But for me, I was like, okay, I'm going to go forward because this is what I love. As you can see through the many chapters, this has been in like from the womb. This is what I wanted to do. And from that day that I decided I will move forward, I would be an impact brand that would give back always through what I do and through the clothing. If it was home goods, if whatever I was doing, that would be the case. And that first collection was donated to the American Red Cross from victims of 9/11 and their family. Nice. And that show was like, again, similar to like us coming out of COVID, which is really not us coming because we're still in COVID, but, the spirit of New York, right? Like everybody wanted to be out again. And this particular show that is so vivid in my mind is that it was just like buyers from Japan and buyers from, internet, like all over were coming to this show with 60 designers. It was me, Gary Graham, Peter Som, Liz Collins. I don't know if Liz and Gary are doing their lines anymore, but it was like really amazing, great designers. And my booth with my mom and an FIT intern. And I was the most happening booth. It was the best probably show of my career, like just what was happening because I had these Americana ribbons that I had designed in 6 months prior and like put this together. My Boy Meets Girl logo, my streetwear, my flowy shirts, similar tops that Noah bought in spring break. Like it was like my designs in my head of the first creations. And then Bergdorf Goodman put me on the map.
Amazing.
And that was who really told my story. And it's really like a dream.
And tell listeners who aren't familiar with your clothing brand about your overall brand and what you built it into and all of that.
So Boy Meets Girl is a impact brand that is unisex. I do lifestyle, really, athleisure, streetwear. People call it many things, but impact brand, that what that means is everything we do and create has a give back portion to different nonprofits that we work with. I also work with tons of musicians and artists that we combine and collaborate. And there, again, going back to my first show, the reason it became an impact brand, because if you think about other brands who are start like Tom's, you buy a shoe, you give back. Mine was reactive to what had happened in our world. And then I set forth that anything that we made, we would tell the story. So the Boy Meets Girl logo is a boy and a girl. And I believe that like when you see it, it's a reflection of something, right? And so here we're sharing a story of a boy, of a girl. I also own Girl Meets Girl, Boy Meets Boy. So, throughout the 20 years of running my business, it's gone from wholesale, which is selling direct to a store, to licensing, where I've grown the asset, which is the boy and girl logo, where I can license it to different categories. So I have a home collection, I have a kids collection with the licensees who pay me back a royalty. I still promote it, but they produce it. Much more beautiful than me doing it all. But we still do wholesale. And then I do a lot of collaboration. So over the course from like 2015 to now, the NBA came to me to do collaborations with the Chicago Bulls, Atlanta Hawks, which is like
So
Chicago
cool.
Bulls was like
Oh my
aha
God.
in my career. And so I dress everyone from kids to adults because I have all the product classifications now, and I've grown internationally to Paris, to Finland, to London, to Asia. So it's been exciting and crazy, as you will see in my book.
I want to, having read it, I want to say like, I'm so proud of you. Like, because it's so exciting to watch. It's just so exciting. And for you to take us through your whole story, it's very motivating and inspiring and really awesome.
Thank you.
So why write a book?
Well, over the course, like in 2011, I started Boy Meets Girl University. And that was really for students to learn about the business, and also underrepresented children and students who I could bring knowledge to. I joined forces with the Lower East Side Girls Club to bring 30 students to New York Fashion Week in 2012 with Wyclef Jean, Dorina DeMarco, Chris Cab. And everybody got to shadow a piece of that show the day of, the photographers, Wyclef, the musicians, me, anything, hair and makeup going on behind the scenes. And so got a taste of the business. And so I brought that to nonprofits and also students who come from all over to hear about the business. And I love passing on the knowledge. I also get asked all the time, how'd you do this? How'd you do this? How'd you do this? A friend. My friend Ike, who's an actor, my best friend, our parents call us all the time being like, I have a friend and his daughter and this. And we're like, okay, all right, we're going to help. Like, we've got you. So for me, I just like COVID hit and I got to work remote for the first time, like in my career, like, and be with my son and do everything. But I wasn't on a train, plane, or automobile and flying to do events and do 15 New York Fashion Week shows and going to the garment center and running. And so for me, people kept coming to me to do talks, like, for the University of Wisconsin, where I went to college, and different companies came to me to do talks via Zoom. And I just felt like, let's add another thing to my plate. But I felt it was my time to share the knowledge and inspire entrepreneurs in the beginning stage, students, people 5 years into it, execs who are looking for some insight. And I had journaled my whole career, and my whole life. I have my journals from when I was like 8, talking about my boy crushes. So
Hello Kitty journals.
Hello Kitty. Oh, totally.
I also had a Hello Kitty journal, so there you go. We can compare.
I have a Hello Kitty heart shaped box that I still put everything in. I'm a Hello Kitty freak. I have not collabed with them yet. I have collabed with Care Bears, but Hello Kitty is But yeah, so there was a lot of struggle. Like there was a lot of times where I'm writing on napkins and I'm like, how am I going to do this? I'm on a subway and I'm like, okay, I'm creative. I've got this. I can do it. I can keep going, talking to myself. And my therapy was writing. I didn't make time for myself for therapy, which I think is a great thing. And I wish I did more of that. But that was my time. And so I really felt like I had read books. Like I don't read like how many books you read a month, which is unbelievable one day. But I read a lot of books about entrepreneurs, and I had read, Steve Jobs' book, and I had read Phil Knight's book, and read a lot about men entrepreneurs. I guess those were the books that were out. And I felt every time I read their books, these great leaders who had built things, that I got a little anxiety about how much money I would have to put in to be them, to be Nike. But I also felt like no one had shared a story that you can still do great things and give back and make money without being as big as Nike or as big as a multi-billion-dollar brand. And that's okay. And it took me a long time to feel that that's okay.
Did you see the new movie coming out about Nike Airs? How with Matt Damon and Ben Affleck?
Oh yes, I can't wait for that.
I'm so excited.
I'm so excited. Yeah. So excited. Yes, I saw that. Yeah. So I just felt like it was important. I feel like a lot of people, I also like what really confirmed it was I had done a course for like 12 or 13 people who had picked to have me be their mentor. And everybody who picked me was like from all different walks of life. It was like someone starting a nonprofit, someone who was a music manager, someone who was an actress, someone who had a designer, someone who was going to leave her job to start a franchise, an ice cream franchise. Like everybody, a girl who had started a WeWork, but she was from the LGBTQ community. So it was like each person was picking me from everything that I've built and done on my journey. And then I would do these sessions with them where I said to look at their business as like quarters or even like 6 months. We broke it down because that was the time I had with them. And each one of them grew their business.
Amazing.
And it was like, I remember leaving that, like our last talk together on a Zoom, and I was like hysterically crying because I was like, oh my God, like, and they were like, what's wrong with her? I was like, you just confirmed this book is going to be for a lot of people and help them. And I was like, thank you so much.
So great. So great. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay. So embracing the calm in the chaos. And when are you doing your event in LA with our store?
So we are there. You heard it here first.
Yeah.
March 30th. And I'm going to be sitting with Ike Barinholtz, who is my best friend, who is actually on tour or coming to New York for History of the World Part 2, that he is a writer and actor in, which is based on the History of the World Part 1 with, oh my God, who created it? I'm having a blank, but oh my goodness. All right. Well, sorry. He's famous. He's like
but Ike will be there.
But anyway, he's in my book. And so we're going to talk about our childhood and our different paths to what we do. And I haven't been to LA since I think pre-COVID. Yeah. I mean, maybe I was there right before COVID or a year before COVID. And I used to do shows there. I used to do trade shows there. I have a massive community there. I think it's going to be a very big event for you, Zibby. I hope so. I hope
can't wait.
I should undersell and over deliver, but everybody's really excited.
Oh my gosh. I can't wait. Yeah. I will be there. I'll come back. I'm leaving the next morning, but I'll be there.
Okay.
I'll be there. Yeah.
That'll be our first time. Hopefully we'll meet.
Before then. I know. Yeah. And again, I'm sorry we couldn't do this in person. I really was looking forward to it. I really, really was. I don't do that many in person. And I was like, oh, I'm so excited. So thanks for pivoting at the last second, and really enjoyed your book. I'm so excited for you. And yeah, just excited to be sort of in your orbit now and all of that. So
thank you. And I was like, what, a Zoom? No, Zibby, I want to be in your color-coded library.
Please come another time. Please come. You're always welcome.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you for having me. And also, you're not feeling so great doing this. So I appreciate it.
No problem. All right. Exciting. All right. To be continued. Thanks, Stacy. Okay. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening to this episode of Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Zibby Owens and at Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books. Also sign up for my newsletter at zibbyowens.com and sign up for my virtual book club and meet lots of authors on Zoom every other week. Thanks so much to Steve and Ryan at Texture Sound for the sound editing. And thank you to Morning Moon Productions for providing this fantastic intro and outro music.